Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ableton Music Producer Podcast. This is Dan Giffen, as always. I'm real excited for today's podcast episode with Ill Factor. Is his artist name. His real name is Ivan Corraliza. I can't roll my R's. I'm sorry, Ivan. I know I mispronounced your name. Ivan is the founder of Beat Academy, and he's worked with major artists like Justin Timberlake, Natasha Bedingfield, Calvin Harris, Yahu. I could go on and on. But before we dive into today's episode with Ill Factor, I wanted to share some exciting news with you guys. I've teamed up with some amazing plugin companies like Delta Sound Labs and Arturia and Mixed In Key to give away over $700 worth of prizes for a remix contest that I would love everybody to enter. So my artist name is Philia, Philia, if you didn't know, and I released a new single with my band called Smooth Rides. I'm giving away the stems. Submit your remix of my track before January 1st of 2020, and you could win a ton of really great plugins and an annual Ableton Live membership to live producers online. So it's worth over $700. It's a really fat deal. I would love to hear what you guys do with remixing my new track called Smooth Rides. And to enter, just go to philiamusic.com/remix. That's PHILIA music.com/remix. And I'd love to hear you guys enter. You could remix the track to be 45 seconds or 4 minutes, doesn't matter. At the very, very end of this episode, you can listen to the full track itself, and would love to hear your remixes. So check that out, philiamusic.com/remix. There's also a link in the show notes in this episode that you can click on. And now for today's episode, which I'm excited about, with Ill Factor.
You're on episode 39 so far, or?
This will be 40, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great, man.
Big 40. It's a good number. So how do you pronounce your last name so I don't sound dumb?
No, hey, I deal with that every day. How do I Corraliza? You don't have to trill the R's, but it's Corraliza.
I can't roll the R's. It's hard.
You could do Corraliza.
Corraliza. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm Cuban Puerto Rican, born and raised here in Miami. Even though I look like an Irish spy, or just I get that being in Miami and looking the way I do. I mean, you look more Hispanic than I do, and
really?
So yeah, well, it's just
like tanning a little bit. I've been in the sun.
Look at you.
That might be part of it.
Where are you based out of?
Well, like 1,200 years ago, my family was from Scotland, but I'm in India.
Dang, we're going there. Let's pull up our ancestry DNA. Let's do it. Oh man.
No, it's funny. I'm in Indianapolis right now. I was in New York City, and I learned Ableton Live at Dubspot.
Oh wow.
Rest in peace, Dubspot.
Rest in peace, Dubspot.
Rest in peace, man. But yeah, man. And then I moved to Indy because it's a hell of a lot cheaper. And I started teaching Ableton at a nice recording studio here, and
cool.
Happily ever after. But yeah, I want to talk more about you. Yeah. You've worked with some really cool people like Yahu. I'm a big fan of that dude.
Oh, cool, man.
Good old JT, Natasha Bedingfield. We can go on and on about your credits. I know you have Beat Academy. It's a really cool online training center for Ableton Live and other music production things.
Yeah.
But like, tell me more about yourself. Like, how did you get into Ableton? How did you start producing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've, as I stated before, it's going to be almost up to 19 years, in which my last 9 to 5 was 19 years ago, where I've been blessed to be producing music and everything that brings for a living. And that, as you mentioned, has played itself out in a wider range of, working along with major recording artists, independent artists, doing stuff for film, and recently, as a matter of fact, today, doing a lot of scoring for video gaming and things like that. Yeah. So it's been really, really amazing. It's been an amazing journey. At the very process, it started at just being around music so much. I mean, my dad was had a musical background. He was in a salsa band. He's the Puerto Rican side of my family. Yeah. And so I played trombone. I played trombone growing up in school, took, private lessons, got really good at it and excelled in it. And music was it's funny. When you know that you're passionate about music, you tend to be that one person in a circle of friends that music moves you in a different way than it does to them. And I started realizing that, man, they don't relate to it the same way. There were some one or two people that obviously that happened naturally because of our passion for music. But throughout my years of schooling and just high school and stuff, I started DJing. So I graduated class of '99, and I would sneak out of my house at night and then go DJ at local raves and parties here in Miami. And even like when first the Ultra Music Festival would happen and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was a part of that scene.
Nice.
And then sneak back into the house so I can go to school again the next day or work the next day.
Not get yelled at by your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's kind of how it bled into buying my first drum machine, because we had, gosh, I just don't want to sound dated. I don't want to be that guy. I didn't have YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have the access to like YouTube, and so it's such an amazing time that we're living in now. But
what was your first drum machine, if you don't mind me asking?
Dude, I got this crazy Yamaha like Rhythm Creator DX thing, and then it was just really cheesy. And then I got this Akai. It was a Korg Electribe. This Korg Electribe ER1.
Nice.
And then I would sync that up with this Akai sampler, the S16 or something like that sampler. Cool. So I would trigger the samples, and then I would make the drum beats on the ER1, and then I would get the ERA and make the bass lines on that. And I had this, and then I started going from DJing to just doing these live performances, and that was like, oh, I don't DJ anymore, man. I'm doing it live. You mean you sound like you mean you sound like crap live? So that's
exactly. Still light years ahead of me. When I first started doing that kind of stuff, I was using some like really shitty like Yamaha piano that you could buy at Walmart, and was like recording that into like a cheap microphone onto a cassette player. Like,
yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And so that led me into working at a local music store, and in doing so, I was DJing and producing drum and bass. I was doing a lot of drum and bass and jungle music at the time, and the scene down here in Miami was actually was pretty good. It was doing really well, and I started doing a lot of remix stuff. I linked up with this guy George Noriega, good friend of mine, and he was producing Ricky Martin's like second. This is after La Vida Loca, and he was doing like a second English album. And then he came into the store and heard some of the stuff and he goes, "Hey man, you make that wiki music?" And that's exactly what it was. Like, you do that wiki music? I was like, I don't know. I don't know what that means, but yeah, that little. And he was like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to do some kind of programming work." And I was using Reason Beta or Reason. My first dabble into software production was when Fruity Loop called Fruity Loops, and it was just like the very first version of that. And then Reason just came on the scene. I remember this. I remember the Steinberg, because Steinberg used to represent Propeller Heads, and the Steinberg rep came in. He was like, "Here's Reason. It's awesome. Check it out. The cables." I was like, "Whoa, cables! Like you can hit tab in the cables." So I downloaded into beta version of Reason, started using that, and then this guy reached out and said, "Hey, we need some remix work done," and that's what got my foot in the door with not just on the electronic scene, but going into the pop mainstream world. And I linked up with Jimmy Douglas, renowned, legendary mixing engineers, done everything from Aretha Franklin, Timberlake, Missy Elliott, and the list goes on. And linked up with him, kind of took me under his wing, and I linked up through him was the Timberlake camp. So myself and Nate Hills, Danger Hands, we just started working together, and I was part of that camp. And so kind of rolled into that, which started getting that lifted the veil from my eyes, and I started saying, wow, this is an incredible world of mainstream pop production. And you're rolling with Timberland and you're seeing all these things happen, and it's like it's just crazy. So I wasn't trying to produce hip hop for him, because it's like selling water to a whale. It just wouldn't work. But he took a liking to, and maybe this is something to focus in on, because I wasn't trying to be everything to everybody. I was like, I do this drum and bass stuff, I'm doing this remix stuff, and that's what got my foot in the door. That was the key that unlocked that opportunity for me. Was the need that they have was, "Hey man, would you mind remixing this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll remix. I'll do a bunch of," because I like that Chemical Brothers type stuff. That's what he would tell me, and I was like, yeah, whatever, Chemical, Crystal Method, anything. Well, I'll just bump. And I was really influenced by those guys too at the time. A lot of big beat stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's good stuff.
Bam.
Yeah, I'm into it. And that kind of like goes back. Laura Escudé, I trained under her for playback.
Oh yeah,
I've trained.
she's awesome, man.
She's fantastic. She's been on the podcast like many episodes ago. But one thing she always says to a lot of people is like, stay in your lane. You don't have to be a master of everything. But like, if you're really good at like your niche genre, or if you're just like super technical and you're amazing at making beats, like own that. And just, like run with it. And that's kind of what I heard you say a little bit. It's like,
yeah, it definitely. And you know, at the very beginning, it's so tempting to want to. There's a difference between influence and inspiration, and it's something that I tell a lot of my Beat Academy members and the fam there. That's influence is going to pivot you in the direction that creates your artist DNA. Influence is where you're going to be grabbing. I mean, that's what influence is, but inspiration is where you can. That's adding another color to your palette to paint with. Yeah. But influence is what is it that you're painting? Yeah. It's, you know what I'm saying? And so, and just in a more practical sense, when at the very beginning stages of producing or being an artist, you're still trying to figure out what's my sound, who am I, where am I going, what's all this? And I ask this very simple question to people: is like, what does your music sound like? And oftentimes we get that. Well, if you like, it's like a mix between hardcore polka and dubstep and this. And I'm like, it leaves me, the consumer, like, I don't know what that sounds like. Exactly. I'm literally confused. Yeah. But if you said, hey, man, if you're a big fan of Massive Attack, Crystal Method and Mos Def, you're going to like my music. And I'm like, I like one of those guys. So I get, it's that instant connection. So what I mean by so that's the influence, like being able to influence you and nurture into finding in, what artists are influencing me. That's going to play a big role into where I'm heading as who I am as an artist. And an inspiration is like, one day I went to Morocco and I heard this really cool sound and I want to use that in this song because it was really cool. That's inspiration. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. It makes total sense. I forget who it was, but somebody I was reading or listening to a podcast that said like every chord progression has already been written.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Just how you interpret it for yourself. And so like you can create a chord progression and, the beats that you use or the sound design you use behind it is what's going to make you unique. It's going to make you, and a lot of notes and progressions have already been written, but it's how you recreate it for yourself and in a way that's original that makes you different. So
yeah, cool.
That's good stuff. Well, you talked about Beat Academy. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, how did that get started in this whole process of your
life? I started off with how I got into producing music. That got the ball rolling, and producing music and being in the music industry, like getting placements and making a living off of it in 2000, from 2002 to even 2007 is a dramatic shift to where we're at today. Because I used to make a living. I'm trying to don't want to make a long story longer, but I used to make a living where a record label would be like, hey, we have this artist. We want you to develop them. Here's the budget. Here's $10,000. Figure out what to do with that money and develop some great sounds or music and songs for this artist.
Okay.
So it would be up to me to take that artist that they're investing in, that they're developing. They'll fly down whether I'm in LA or down here in Miami, and we're in the studio and we're just kind of crafting out, figuring the sound, working on songs. And then I'm like, okay, how much am I going to put in my pocket to live off of? And then how much do I spend on this, the studio and all those little things, M&Ms, whatever.
Right.
And that's how I used to make my living. I was like, okay, I got to make this stretch to the next project, the next thing,
Eat a lot of oatmeal in between if you have to.
Yeah, exactly. But it was good. And then when you get the hot hand and you start getting momentum, more doors start opening up. Yeah. But then I started seeing the writing on the wall when streaming was really starting to steamroll the way the music industry and things were consumed. And it started affecting not just me, but so many other well-known producers where the record labels, the major record labels, were starting to consolidate into three, and then they just basically say, we don't have the budget anymore. So now it's up to you. You find the artists, you develop them, you take the studio time, you go ahead, produce a song. Everything was now just clearly on spec, right? Okay. And it's like, and when you have this smash hit single, because we're not really working on albums anymore, we just want to release singles, we'll take it and we'll play it for the artist. And then if we like it,
right,
we'll put it out, And if it does well, then we can talk about signing the, hey, we'll pay you the producer advance.
That's a great place for them to be, because there's no risk in that shit.
Yeah, exactly. And but
otherwise it's on you.
Yeah, but that process, that window of time could last, and it could be anywhere from 4 to 7 months of me hoping and praying and wishing that something sticks.
Yeah.
So now I mention all that because you're asking, how did Beat Academy start? It wasn't out of a necessity per se. I was invited to go speak at a workshop at a local SAE nearby, and I just fell in love with the aspect of teaching and pouring into others. I was like, man, this is so cool. So I called them up. I want to do this again. And they're like, okay, sure, do it again. And then I was like, man, I want to do this more. I want to be able to share from my experiences and mentor and just pour into others to help them take their next step forward with their music. So I thought of Beat Academy as like, let me create a platform that does exactly that. And not just providing, hey, I've got courses, go there, but it's more of I wanted to create a mentorship platform. So
sure.
Beat Academy is a platform that does provide resources such as courses, but it's aimed towards allowing the artist and music producer to take their next step with their music production.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like where I do 2 coaching calls a month. And so that's where I'm either answering questions, or I'll all the members will submit some of their music. I'll critique it live, and just some little pointers here and there.
Yeah.
I have some guest guys come in, Jimmy Douglas, Nate Hills, Taylor Swift's manager. All these, they'll come in and just guest speak and things like that. So there's a live coaching element. There's a community. There's a community aspect to it, and we have monthly breakdowns and challenges and things like that. So there's a lot of accountability that's being brought on board. So it's not just a cold fridge of like, oh, okay, I've got these courses, but I still don't have anybody to interact with or anybody to help guide me to the next step.
Right.
That's what Beat Academy is. So
yeah. And I find that that's a really smart approach as far as like online education, because there's like 6 billion Ableton Live courses out there. And I think people are wanting more hands-on, grab my hand and like help me learn how to walk type of thing.
Yeah. There's nothing, we're not teaching anything new, because you could even get everything that we might be teaching in a course on YouTube. If you work hard enough and you scramble and piece everything together. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. It really is. How do you find a way to encourage someone and believe in them so that they are able to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah.
Because that's really what happened when somebody came alongside of me and said, and linked arms with me and said, man, I believe in what you got. I want to help you. That meant the world. That's what Jimmy Douglas did for me.
Totally.
And that's a world of a change right there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just and it doesn't mean that everything's rosy. It doesn't mean, yeah, man, you're doing great, keep going. It's like, no, man, you gotta, here's the reality. This is where you're at, and this is where you're expecting to go. Well, there's a big distance between the reality and your expectations. Let's bring those two closer together.
Right.
So there's less disappointment. So yeah, man, that's what I'm planning. And I'm in a whole new season of my life too. I'm married. I've been married 10 years. I've got 3 boys. So I'm not in the I'm not in the rat race anymore, where I'm trying to it's crazy. If you're in the music industry, doing in the pop world, it's a crazy rat race, and you're on that hamster wheel and there's no getting off. If you really, it's relevant, you got to be in that grind every minute of the day.
Yeah.
You can't balance. You can't do one foot in that and then try to do you can't, man, because there's always somebody right behind you ready to take your place when you fall off. So
yeah. And I would just imagine like having fresh new content and constantly writing and producing is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So always having something to release or to share or to present. Yeah. Well, let's kind of nerd out for a minute. We were talking about that earlier.
All right.
It's like I see you've been doing some live streams on YouTube. I saw your most recent one, which was I think like a week ago or a week and a half ago, and you created a beat, and I was like, oh wait, I use that plugin. Yeah. I was like, I think this guy and I could be good friends. We have a lot of same toys in our like toolbox. But yeah, so like, what are some of your favorite Ableton Live devices that like are your go-tos?
Saturator, hands down.
Yeah.
I think Saturator is probably the most amazing stock plugin. That Overdrive,
agreed.
Like just those two.
I don't really use Overdrive that much, but I know a lot of people love it. It's almost too gritty for me, like too digital, I think.
Yeah, I scale back a little bit on the overdrive and saturate. Saturate is dope, man. It just takes every, like, slap it on drums, slap it on everything, and it's just that great of a plugin. Of
Mhm.
course, echoes
Yeah.
echoes great.
I was waiting for it. I love Echo. That thing.
Yeah, man. Echoes amazing delay, and the auto filter, hands down. I think that is like that's it. Like,
The king of wobbles. Really.
yes, it really is the most used plugin on any of my projects.
Same.
Is the auto filter.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'd say the auto filter, Echo, glue compressor. If those are the only three things in my life I need.
That's the one I don't use the most.
Really.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It just has a different sound because it's representing the SSL
Mm-hmm.
G bus, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it has, I feel like, kind of its own unique sound, and it's simple for people who don't know anything about compression. I feel
Yeah.
like you don't have as many knobs, so it's just kind of like just dial it in real fast.
I almost forget that I have it because I have all the third party, the UAD, SSL, and
Oh,
the Waves, SSL, and I use those. But yeah, the glue one, actually, Sidetronics, the guys who make one of the old, they have like the glue plugin, and I love that plugin. I used to use it before, so when I saw they were incorporating Ableton, I was like, oh, it's a no brainer. Yeah, and the drum bus is actually a really cool plugin. Yeah, the drum bus has been really cool.
I like putting that on a piano. Like the drum bus with on a piano, it instantly just brings out the mid range. It just makes it kind of pop. I love that.
What else? I'm actually looking at it here.
You don't have to. There's so many.
Yeah, but honestly, the OTT multi-band dynamics preset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't use it as much. I mean, in the EDM world, it's like it's on everything.
Yeah,
but it's saturator and auto filter and those guys we mentioned earlier are the go-tos for me.
Yeah, one pro tip, Mr. Bill. I saw one of his videos.
That guy's dope.
He's the man. A long time ago, he did a tutorial on like turning on soft clip on the glue compressor and then just driving the really hard. And that's honestly my favorite saturator. It's just doing that.
Yeah.
It's like a really fat, gritty, warm tone to it. That's a good time.
Good. I'm going to do that right now. Y'all crazy.
Shout out, Mr. Bill.
Yeah.
For days. That's a good one. What about third-party plugins outside of the world?
Man, it's funny. I think plugins, we go through I go through seasons, and seasons could last maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, but there's this cycle that I go through where it might be I'm rocking the RC20, right? Like, and that's my cycle for the next 3 weeks, and then I'm moving on to something else. So
what's RC24 for people who don't know? Like, yeah,
I'm sorry about that. So there's a company, XLN Audio, makes amazing plugins. They're great all around. They make some great instruments and great plugins. But there's a plugin that's called RC20 Retro Color by XLN Audio, and it's just it adds saturation. But the main core purpose of this plugin is that it gives it the vintage texture that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. So lately, if any trap record, or when you hear anything halftime or slow, you've got that wobble effect that you would get. RC20 is just a great plugin. You could just throw it on a regular piano patch, crank up the wobble, hit the stereo button, and it just, oh wow, I can play anything. It just sounds great.
Yeah.
So
instant bliss.
Yeah. So it's a great been really digging that plugin.
Yeah. You ever play with much Sound Toys stuff?
No. Yes and no. As far as like the little altar boy every now and then, but no, man. I know there's Echo. I've played with them, but like I said, that's what I mean. That was like my cycle a year ago. Yeah. I would cycle through some of the Sound Toy stuff, and I would go through all that, and now I'm like on the XLN Audio tip. I've been using XO and a lot of the UAD stuff, and Slate. The Slate digital stuff is awesome. Yeah, I'm using a lot of their stuff.
I find for me a lot of times plugins are like come and go in seasons. It's almost like watching a Netflix series. Like, like I've seen The Office probably like 5 times all the way through, and I'll just come back around to it later and like, it's like pick and choosing different plugins and different seasons based on the song.
That's absolutely right, man. You nailed it. It's just like, oh man, I remember this guy. This I love this season. Episode 3.
Favorite. Yeah, totally.
I love my Dwight plugin. This is great.
I feel like who made sausage fattener again? That
The
was
Dada Life or
Not a
like
Life. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I feel like they should make a Dwight plugin. Like,
Yeah.
and he just like smiles and like throws maybe like a snowball at Jim as you crank up like the dry wet or something.
That would be hilarious. That would be really cool, actually.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, for
I know
sure.
that. So as far as like instrument plugins, like not so much effects, but like
Okay, so instrument plugins, I'm a Contact fiend. A lot of the things in libraries for Contact, but the output stuff is phenomenal.
Arcade
Output
is cool too.
Arcade is a huge disruptor, man. What a freaking beast! What a brilliant idea with Arcade. When they reached out to me about, hey, we got this thing going, and I was trying it out, I was like, dang, you guys, freaking great concept. It's just really phenomenal.
Yeah. Feels like cheating sometimes.
It is. Now, I have been using Arcade more in the sense of tying up the seams and tying up the loose ends than rather it being the starter of the ideas.
Yeah.
Because at times I'm like, oh, no, I'm trying to wrap. So Arcade for me has been amazing at like seaming up the gaps or like adding textures and really cool things. And like, hey, I don't know, something. Arcade. I come across an ARP really thing. I was like, oh, that works really great here. So especially for the scoring video game stuff, it's been awesome.
I 100% agree. It's like a sweetening of my tracks rather than, because you could easily build out an entire track just with Arcade. But I find it's more of like a good complementary type of plugin. Anybody who doesn't know what Arcade is, it's basically a sampler. It has like a huge library that you can download. You pay like $10 a month. And they've just got a big library of sounds and samples you can play back on a keyboard, and it's all locked into like key and tempo.
Yeah,
so it's super easy.
And it's been really, really cool. The Arturis stuff is great too. All the things that they come out with in the Analog Lab. I mean, the ARP 2600 is just a really cool thing. I mean, it goes to Serum and Massive, not Massive X, but Massive. I've been always a big fan of Massive. I've got Massive X. I just like, I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to the other one because I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this commitment yet.
It's really funny you say that, because I think a big part of the release of new Massive is them redesigning the interface to try to make it a little more simple for people who maybe get lost and confused. But if you have a lot more experience with the old Massive, I can see why you'd still be in love with that.
Yeah. So, man, it's just been, those have been cool. Moto bass, I use it a lot on all my videos because I've been using that for all like acoustic bass. That IK Multimedia makes that, and that's a great plugin for just electric bass guitars. That's a really dope plugin.
Yeah. Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Nice.
And don't sleep on Absinthe too. That's another native instrument one. Absinthe is great. Absinthe 5.
Okay, I haven't played with 5. I played with like the old school Absinthe.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm actually looking at my favorite plugins collections tab, and I'm looking at. Let me just go down the list here. Those are ones. A lot of the Contact stuff, like the Strum the Sunburst guitar one, has been really awesome lately.
Okay. Yeah, I got some homework to do. There's a couple new ones here for me. Is there any plans for Ill Factor to be releasing new original stuff in the near future? I know that you've had some like really great streams on Spotify and some other places. Like, I love your single Champion Sound. It's probably the most popular single that was actually picked up for the video game Assassin's Creed. Really dope. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the story behind that is kind of funny too. Do you have time to dive into that, or?
So much time, man.
Cool. I was approached by actually Verizon because they wanted something for their Super Bowl ad, and Verizon was like, we want something to play on Super Bowl. Here's the theme. Here's what we're going for. So I just drew up a quick 30-second clip of Champion Sound, very raw, what it was, and it was me singing the dummy vocal. I was like, whoa, just screaming it out and just saying, started from the bottom. And I grabbed that. So I did like that little verse clip and the chorus.
Voice. It sounded really good. Yeah.
Thanks, man. That's the Overdrive plugin. Straight up. That's direct insert on the vocal chain. So I did it, submitted it, nothing ever happened. And it was just like a 30-second clip of a verse and the chorus, full out songs. And just a word of advice, if you're pitching things for ad agencies, it's good that you present a full minute, like already finished. You don't want to, here's a snippet. And if they like it, no, you never go off of that. When I meant snippet, to me, I actually had a drawn out song. I just repeated the first verse or the second verse, and I submitted like a minute long thing. So that's an extra little bonus thing. If you're getting into the placement game of trying to get music on film or advertising, it's always good that you present it as a full-fledged song, because people on that world, they don't get it. It's either going to work or not. So you can't try to, well, if you like, and I can always go back and tweak. They don't do that kind of stuff.
If it sounds good, then they're into it.
Yeah. Right, exactly. If it meets what they're looking. So I did that, submitted, nothing ever happened. And so a couple months down the road, my publisher at Cobalt, they do my admin, and they were like, hey, this video game company wants to use this song that you submitted. Because I would just like, all right, send it to my sub, my publisher. Just here you go, man. Have it live on the hard drive. On to the next thing. They didn't think anything of it. They came back and said, yo, this video game company wants to use this on this game. I'm like, what game? It's Assassin's Creed. I'm like, yo, I don't play games, but I know that one's dope. Yeah. And so then they came back. It's like, yeah, we love it. And they put it on the trailer. Trailer launched. It went really viral, went crazy. They came back to me and say, look, we're getting a lot of requests for the song, but the thing is, we only have like it's a 30-second like snip. I was like, all right, give me 2 hours. I finished the whole thing, mixed, mastered it, and I submitted back to them and go, why don't we do this? Let's submit it as a single. And then I came back to them and was like, listen, I want to do something else. Let me write a whole soundtrack inspired by the video game. It's like, no, we already have somebody who scored it. No, not score it. Let me write a soundtrack inspired by the game, but you guys will release it coincidentally with the game. You officially stamp it as the official soundtrack for the game. It's produced by, we do this whole campaign. We'll split the master rights, you and me. And what do you think? And they're like, are you serious? Yeah, but we're going to release this thing next week. I'll do it next week. Don't worry about it. And so I mapped it out, did that. And awesome. That was the partnership between me and Ubisoft formed, and song did well. And
yeah, it did. It did very well.
So yeah, man, I am planning to put out more music. So I did it's kind of like a double-edged, two birds with one stone here, or one Ableton project. I partnered up with a good friend of mine, Graham Cochran from the Recording Revolution. And I invited him down here. We're good friends. And we decided to write a whole EP. And we filmed the whole process. So from the inspiration, from me working on Ableton and breaking down the whole process. And so we're now in the middle of providing it as a course on how to build an EP, how to record it. He's going to show how to mix it, how to track vocals, how to track guitars. I'm going to show how I programmed, how I produce it, how to sound design all the stuff. Then we're going to show the marketing aspect. How do you actually market this EP if you have no fans or anything like that? And so all those things. So we're going from A to Z on producing this EP. So the EP itself is going to be released end of December. The course is in January that we're releasing.
Brilliant idea, man. I love that, because it's like a whole 360-degree spectrum from beginning to end of what needs to happen.
Yeah,
rather than just picking off like, here's how you do this. It's like a full, and that's what artists are really looking for a lot of times.
Yeah,
like, you can make a ton of great music, but like you just upload it through DistroKid, and it's like, what's next?
Right. So we wanted to cover the whole basis. I mean, because a lot of people are like, yeah, that's great. We like we want to be a fly in the room, so to speak. That's cool. But man, like, how do we make a dent? Like, how do we build some kind of traction and pursue making a living off of our music? And so we want to cover that whole spectrum in that process as well.
It's great. When is that going to be coming out?
That course is released in January of 2020. Like, so we're going to start the new year. It's like, yo, make the EP you've always wanted to make in the brand new year at 2020. So I'm in the middle of, we're adding the finishing touches to that course now. So it's about 4 to 4. It's 5 songs. It's a 5-song EP.
Okay. EP length. What's the name of the EP?
We're working on that now, and that's part of the course. Yeah, no, it really is. So we're actually like filming the Zoom call about like, what are we going to call this? How do we do the art? Where's the art? So every aspect of putting this thing together, even talking about like split sheets. How do you deal with working with somebody else on something? How do you deal with splits? How do you deal with the publishing? Where does the music royalties come from? And all that stuff happens. All of that is going to be covered,
That's great. Yeah, because that whole side of it is something that I'm still fairly new to, and I think a lot of people are, as far as like royalty splits and like licensing and all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you do with your music? Because there's a lot of music that people are just sitting on that could be sellable. Like, it could be marketable for more than just themselves as an artist, and you can make money off of that.
Absolutely. Look at the landscape of how people are consuming not just music but entertainment.
Yeah.
We have some mega giants. We've got Netflix and Disney and Apple all punching themselves in the face to produce content at an extremely crazy rate because they're all competing. Who can bring the best content to the table? Who can entertain and allure the most people the most? And so with that influx of content, there is a huge need of influx of music for that content. And there's such a great opportunity now where it's like, hey, I've got hard drives filled of tunes that I can now easily find a home for, or at least partner up with someone that can find a home for this because the need is there, and not just with the big guys, but everywhere.
Yeah. So without going down like a huge long rabbit trail, like what advice would you give to somebody who was wanting to tap into that world as a producer?
Yeah, without going too deep, the advice would
quick tips like for
yeah. Hey, let's start with where we picked up last time, nailing down the niche, figuring out just because you're technically adaptable to doing deep house and then a dubstep record and then some reggae, you might have the technical know-hows of how to do that. But I would say find that sound, niche it down and ace that, because then when you do present yourself to this opportunity, you want to be the guy or girl that people go to for that specific sound, right? And that's what you do. So focus on that, nurture that well, and then align. Find people who are doing a lot of the editing on projects that you want to be a part of. A lot of people just look either for the big name companies. If you find film, if you find advertising, if you find things, there are people who edit that stuff. And in that process, the editors are the ones that take the brunt of all the burden. And if you can alleviate, you always want to be the person to bring value to the situation. So if you can alleviate an editor, a lot of times people who are making edits, they grab stock music or they'll grab music and, hey man, I just edited to this music. And then at the last minute, they're like, okay, we need to replace that music with something that we can license.
So how would you find these editors? Like, where's a good place to start?
Yeah, you can go on to, like, let's say, I'm trying to give an example, maybe like IDMB. What's that website like for film and things like that? IDMB. There's like all these websites where you can just find out the editor or somebody who worked on, credits for either a film, credits for a Netflix movie or things like that. You'll see editors.
Watch the credits at the end.
Yeah, just take note of like, who's the agency behind this commercial? Like this is the part that a lot of people don't want to do, but that's the due diligence, the research, and like who's the guys, what agencies behind this. And then how do I just reach out and provide, hey man, I'm a music producer based out of here. And my music sounds like, Imagine Dragons, Mos Def or whatever. Give them 3 examples that your music sounds like. And then there you go.
Send them to your pretty website with a couple projects.
Yeah. And then just start dabbling in that direction. Like just kind of digging in and there's sites like MusicBed. There's a bunch of sites like MusicBed is a good site where you can, they kind of are that hub where you can put your music on there and then people will go to MusicBed to find it. So you can do things like that.
Okay, I haven't heard of that. I'll have to check that out. Musicbed.com, I assume.
Yeah, musicbed.com.
Sweet. Yeah. So yeah, you got this new EP coming out. You've got 3 kids and a wife. It's keeping you busy. You sound like a busy guy. No, I love your music, man. I'm stoked to hear that you're releasing another EP, and everybody go check out beatacademy.com. Got some really good content in there, and I know there's a lot people can learn from you in all different areas of music production. So I'm thankful to have you on the podcast today, man. And
yeah, man, my pleasure. Yeah,
absolutely, dude. And if you ever come to Indianapolis, you have a home here. So
are you close to Sweetwater, like the store? Or?
Yeah. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I did a Ableton Live performance workshop at Sweetwater for their staff. And stuff.
Nice, man.
So
great.
It's a great facility, man. Have you been there before?
Yeah, I have. I went there to do like I was for something for Kurzweil. I was like endorsed by them, and I went there to do my little, tap dance and stuff like that, and it was really cool. And I was like, this is crazy.
Their facilities are ridiculous.
It's nuts.
They really are. In all the best ways.
Yeah.
It's probably good I don't work there because 90% of my paycheck would go straight back.
Yeah. You could go broke.
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging out on the podcast, and maybe we'll have you back again in the future sometime. And
I'd be more than happy to, man. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Once again, here is the single for the remix contest called Smooth Rides. Once again, you can win over $700 of plugins by Arturia, Mixed in Key, and Delta Sound Labs, and an annual subscription to Live Producers Online, teaching you a bunch of different things about Ableton Live. And so remix this track. It'd be really cool. To enter, go to philiamusic.com/remix. There's a link in the show notes. And here is the track that you'd be remixing. You can download the stems and then use it for whatever you want to do. So stoked to hear the remixes you guys come up with, and here is that track you would be remixing.